Back on this Monday night, so our summer tourism slump, it's managed to linger into the fall and winter months, and it's safe to say there are a lot of reasons for it.
Las Vegas is facing something it hasn't seen in decades. For the first time, the city that once prided itself on being the ultimate escape, the place where anyone could show up, spend a little, feel like a high roller, and go home with a story, is watching its tourists walk away, and not quietly. Across social media, travel forums, and even mainstream news interviews, people are openly saying the same thing. Vegas just isn't worth it anymore. What used to be a playground for the everyday tourist is starting to feel like a luxury resort for the wealthy, and everyone else is asking themselves a difficult question. Why am I paying so much for less than I used to get? This year alone, visitor satisfaction has taken one of the biggest hits in modern Vegas history. Tourists are complaining, locals are frustrated, and even corporate executives, the very people running the Strip, are admitting that they've lost control of the narrative. That's not something you hear from Las Vegas very often. And in a new on-the-ground report, we finally got to hear directly from the people who matter most, the tourists, the locals, and the influencers who live and breathe this city every single day. And what they said? It paints a very clear, very uncomfortable picture of a city that's drifting dangerously far from what made it famous. Tonight, we're breaking down exactly what people told reporters, the real reasons they're fed up, what's driving tourists away, and whether Vegas can actually fix this before it becomes a full-blown crisis. But before we get into the 7 biggest issues hurting Las Vegas right now, let's hear the raw, unfiltered voices of the people on the Strip. Because if you really want to understand what's happening to Vegas, you have to start by listening to those who came here hoping for magic and left wondering what happened to it.
It was probably about 3 weeks ago. Bill Hornbuckle, the CEO of MGM Resorts, kind of admitted that the resorts on the Strip had lost control of the narrative. They had sort of lost touch with consumers by allowing the cost of a bottle of water to go to about $12. How have prices changed through the years since you've been here?
They've gone through the roof drastically in the last year or so.
I feel like people are still complaining about the prices of Vegas and like what's going on when they come here as tourists.
Part 1. Vegas has become too expensive. There it is, the complaint that has now become the unofficial slogan of Las Vegas in 2025 and 2026. It's just too expensive now. And the scary part, that criticism isn't coming from bitter gamblers or people who lost money at the tables. It's coming from everyone. International tourists, regular visitors, even influencers who live in this city and defend it every day. When you have a Canadian tourist saying prices have gone through the roof drastically in the last year or so, and the MGM CEO admitting that they lost control so badly that water somehow became a $12 luxury item, that's not just inflation. That's a city drifting out of touch with reality. Las Vegas used to be the place where your money went further, where even if you only showed up with a few $100, you felt like the town was happy you were there. Cheap food, cheap rooms, cheap shows, and fair odds. That was Vegas's entire competitive advantage. It wasn't trying to be Monaco. It wasn't trying to be Dubai. It was supposed to be fun, not financially punishing. But somewhere along the way, the value equation snapped. Visitors now feel like they're paying luxury prices for experiences that don't feel luxurious. A bottle of water shouldn't cost as much as a cocktail. Breakfast shouldn't be pushing $60 for 2 people. And when the cost of simply existing on the Strip, walking, breathing, drinking, becomes a financial burden, tourists start making different choices. They start gambling less. They start going off-Strip. And eventually, they stop coming back. Because here's the truth that corporate Vegas hates to admit. When you nickel and dime your guests before they even reach a slot machine, you're not increasing revenue, you're driving it away. The prices are no longer just high, they're insulting. They make people feel taken advantage of. And once a tourist feels that way, you've lost them before the vacation even begins. This is the first and arguably the biggest reason Las Vegas is losing visitors. But unfortunately, it's not the only one. Part 2.
Parking fees are driving tourists and locals away.
Another point of contention Heather is still hearing about.
The parking on the strip.
Locals.
The parking on the strip is terrible. I think it is the biggest deterrent because the moment you're on property, you're already getting charged $25.
That you have to pay to park. Sorry. That's mine.
That seems to.
It's, the days of the free parking you got, and just the price gouging as well.
If high prices are the spark that ignited frustration in Las Vegas, then parking fees were the gasoline poured directly on top of it. Because nothing makes people angrier than having to pay just to exist somewhere. And in modern Las Vegas, tourists and locals are paying before they've even walked into a casino, before they've touched a slot machine, before they've ordered a drink, and in some cases, before they even know what hit them. $25 just to park. Not for valet, not for a special event, not for convenience, just to be there. And when you hear locals saying it's price gouging, you know it's bad, because Las Vegas locals are used to the Strip being expensive. They know the city runs on tourism. But when even lifelong residents, people who grew up here, worked here, and supported the casinos for decades are now openly saying they avoid the Strip, that should terrify corporate Vegas. Parking fees broke the relationship between the city and its guests in a way nothing else could. It wasn't just the cost, it was the message behind the cost. The message that said, we don't care if you're here to gamble, we don't care if you're supporting our economy, we don't care if you're a local, pay us first. For a long time, Vegas understood something simple. Make the experience cheap so people can spend money where it actually matters. Gaming, food, entertainment. But the moment casinos started charging people to park, they inverted the entire model. Suddenly, Vegas wasn't welcoming anymore. It felt punitive. It felt hostile. It felt greedy. And visitors don't forget that feeling. People plan shorter trips. People stay off-strip. People choose other destinations entirely, places where they're not charged a cover fee just for showing up. Las Vegas didn't just raise prices, it created a psychological barrier that starts the moment a tourist pulls into a garage. And once the first impression is negative, everything that happens after suffers. This is the second major reason visitors are turning away from Vegas. But as bad as this is, the next issue might be even worse, because it's something money can't fix overnight. Part 3. The smell of weed is pushing international tourists away.
But parking and prices aren't the only turn-offs we heard about from visitors. For this couple from Lithuania, among our valuable international tourists, it's the smell of pot.
Horrible.
Because it's illegal in our country.
And we don't like it.
We don't like it, and we don't smell this smell all the time in our country.
So is that something that might keep you from ever coming back?
Maybe yes.
Probably.
This is the part of the report that should make Las Vegas pause, because it's not about prices, parking fees, or resort policies. Those things can be changed. They can be lowered. They can be fixed. But this is cultural. This is emotional. And for some tourists, this is a deal breaker. The smell of weed on the Strip has become one of the biggest complaints among international visitors, especially from countries where cannabis is illegal, taboo, or socially frowned upon. To them, it's not just unpleasant, it's shocking, it's jarring. It instantly changes the tone of their trip. And let's be honest, even though most people couldn't care less about pot, American families most certainly do. Sure, Sin City is named Sin City for a reason, but the sin typically was reserved for areas children wouldn't normally access, not directly in areas that families would be walking around in. Whether you agree Vegas should be a family destination or not, it still is considered by many to be one, and with that, a larger volume of tourism. What happens when entire families of 4 or 5 suddenly stop coming because they think it isn't appropriate for their children? The Strip gets emptier. And when the Lithuanian couple was asked whether the smell might keep them from ever returning to Las Vegas, they didn't hesitate. They didn't try to sugarcoat it. They didn't try to be polite. They simply said, maybe, yes, probably.
That is devastating, because international tourists are some of Vegas's most valuable visitors. They fly the farthest, they stay the longest, they spend the most per trip, and they choose destinations very carefully. If they feel uncomfortable on the Strip, not unsafe, not threatened, just uncomfortable, they will simply go elsewhere. And there are endless alternatives: Dubai, Singapore, Monte Carlo, Macau, European resort cities, all fighting to capture the same high-value tourist that Vegas is slowly pushing away. To be clear, this isn't a debate about whether weed should be legal or not. It is legal in Nevada. That's not changing. But Vegas has failed to address one obvious consequence. If the smell becomes overwhelming, tourists who aren't accustomed to it will feel alienated. They feel like the city lost some of its class. They feel like the atmosphere is different, more chaotic, less polished. They feel like Vegas is no longer the glamorous destination they imagined. And perception matters. If the first thing a visitor notices is the smell of cannabis, not the lights, not the excitement, not the luxury, then Vegas has a branding problem, not a legal one. This isn't an issue casinos can solve with discounts, comps, or marketing. It's deeper than that. It's about the experience the moment you step outside your hotel. And for a growing number of international tourists, that experience is becoming a reason not to return.
Part 4. Entertainment is booming, but it's not enough.
I will say, the last couple nights after F1, the casinos have been busy.
I mean, there's a lot to do. I mean, there's a lot of shows, a lot of celebrity chefs, a lot of, we're going to go see the Sphere next month.
I like the shows. I used to come when Celine Dion was a regular.
I think a lot of people are coming to Vegas right now for like the Sphere. We have unique entertainment. So I feel like they're still gonna have to come here to get these unique experiences like F1 and the Sphere. But is that enough to make them really wanna come and spend thousands of dollars?
If there's one area where Las Vegas is still firing on all cylinders, it's entertainment. F1 brought global attention. The Sphere became an instant bucket list attraction. Shows, concerts, celebrity chefs, residencies. The city is overflowing with things you can't find anywhere else. And when tourists were interviewed, you could hear genuine excitement in their voices. They want to love Vegas. They're still amazed by the scale, the creativity, the spectacle of it all. In fact, several mentioned that they planned trips specifically around the Sphere or special events. But here's the uncomfortable truth behind all that enthusiasm. Entertainment alone can't outweigh the frustrations people feel everywhere else. Yes, the casinos were packed after F1. Yes, the Sphere is selling out. But those moments are exceptions. Spikes in a city that used to be busy every weekend, not only during once-in-a-lifetime events. Vegas has slowly transformed into a special occasions city. People come for the big shows. They come for the new attractions. They come for the Instagram-worthy spectacles. But they don't come back as often. They don't stay as long. They don't gamble the way they used to. Why? Because modern Vegas asks tourists to spend thousands before they've even had fun. High resort fees, high food prices, high parking fees, high everything. So when visitors are excited about the entertainment, they have to weigh that excitement against the cost of the trip. And for many, the math doesn't work anymore. This is why you're seeing Vegas filled with first-timers and occasional visitors, but fewer repeat guests. They'll come once for the Sphere. They'll come once for F1. They'll come once for the Super Bowl or a special concert. But the old Vegas, the one that attracted people 2, 3, even 4 times a year, is fading. Entertainment keeps the lights on, but it doesn't fix the core issue. People don't feel like they're getting value anymore. Vegas can dazzle, impress, overwhelm, but even the best show in the world can't make someone forget they just spent $60 on breakfast. Part 5. Locals reveal what's really wrong with Las Vegas.
It's, the days of the free parking got, and just the price gouging as well.
I feel like people are still complaining about the prices of Vegas and like what's going on when they come here as tourists.
When tourists complain, Vegas can write it off as visitor frustration. When influencers complain, Vegas can tell itself it's just social media noise. But when locals, the people who built this city, who work in the casinos, who fill the restaurants, who grew up on this strip, start sounding fed up, that's when you know something is seriously wrong. Las Vegas has always depended on locals far more than people realize. They're the ones who keep businesses alive during the slow season. They're the ones who fill theaters on weeknights. They're the backbone of the service industry, the workforce, the culture. So when lifelong residents say they avoid the strip now because it's price gouging, that's not a small complaint. That's a warning sign. Las Vegas remembers what Las Vegas used to be. A city that welcomed them. A city that rewarded loyalty. A city where even if you didn't spend much, you felt appreciated. But now, they feel pushed out of their own home. Parking fees hit them hardest because they're the ones who used to casually stop by a casino for a quick dinner, to meet friends, or to catch a show. When that simple outing suddenly comes with a $25 penalty before you've even walked inside, you can practically feel the relationship between locals and the strip breaking. And once locals stop showing up, the strip becomes something it was never meant to be, a tourist trap floating in the middle of the desert. Locals sense something visitors only pick up after a few trips, that Vegas has shifted from hospitality to extraction. Everything feels monetized. Everything feels like the guest experience comes second. So, when locals say they're done, that should terrify corporate Vegas, because locals don't complain lightly. They don't want Vegas to fail. They love this city. Many of them were born here, raised here, and built their lives around its energy. And when those people start saying they feel unwelcome, you're not just losing customers, you're losing the heart of the city. This is the fifth major reason Vegas is slipping, but the next part reveals a surprising twist. A handful of casinos that are actually moving in the opposite direction and seeing success because of it. Part 6. The surprising return of Old Vegas and why it works.
Are we hearing anything on the corporate side about Las Vegas returning to that so-called nostalgic business model?
Well, as a matter of fact, Heather said that Circus has just gone back to old school bingo where they use paper. No computers, they use like the old days. Also, I was talking to Ryan Growney, the general manager at the South Point. He told me that they lose a ton of money on their buffet, but he has absolutely no intention of ever seeing it go away because he says their customers love it. And I asked him, what's in it for South Point if you guys are losing so much money on the buffet? He didn't say anything. He just pointed to the slot machines.
This might be the most ironic twist in the entire report. While the mega resorts on the Strip are obsessing over squeezing every last dollar from their guests, some of the old school properties, the ones everyone loves to underestimate, are quietly winning by doing the exact opposite. Circus didn't invest in some futuristic gaming experience. They didn't raise prices. They didn't reinvent themselves with tech or apps or complicated loyalty systems. They brought back paper bingo, something so simple, so nostalgic, so Vegas. And people love it because it reminds visitors of a time when casinos cared about fun more than optimization and value more than margins. Then you have South Point, one of the last remaining casinos in the city where value still actually means something. Their general manager openly admits the buffet loses money, a lot of money. And instead of shutting it down like almost every major property on the Strip, he refuses to even consider it. Why? Because he understands what corporate Vegas forgot. You don't make your money by squeezing your guests. You make your money by getting them in the door and giving them a reason to stay. That's why when asked why he keeps a money-losing buffet alive, he didn't lecture anyone about projections or quarterly reports. He just pointed to the slot machines. That single gesture said everything. Vegas used to operate under a simple philosophy. Make the experience cheap so people can afford to have fun. Give them value, and they'll gladly gamble, stay longer, and come back often. Now, the Strip charges for everything: parking, water, Wi-Fi, chairs by the pool, and wonders why visitors are gambling less, staying shorter, and not returning. Meanwhile, the few places embracing Old Vegas are thriving by comparison because value never stopped working. Vegas just stopped offering it.
Part 7. Is Vegas doing enough to win people back?
I think a lot of people are coming to Vegas right now for like the Sphere. We have unique entertainment. So I feel like they're still gonna have to come here to get these unique experiences like F1 and the Sphere. But is that enough to make them really wanna come and spend thousands of dollars?
After hearing from tourists, locals, influencers, and even casino executives, the question hanging over Las Vegas right now isn't complicated. Is this enough? Is the entertainment boom enough? Is the Sphere enough? Is F1 enough? Are the shows, restaurants, concerts, residencies, even the unavoidable wow factor that only Vegas can deliver enough to outweigh everything else that's pushing tourists away? Because for the first time ever, the answer isn't obvious. Yes, Vegas is still exciting. Yes, the city still knows how to put on a spectacle better than anywhere else on Earth. Yes, people want to see the Sphere, the Raiders, the Golden Knights, the A-list concerts. But those moments are short-term spikes, not long-term solutions. A city can't survive on one massive event after another. It can't depend on people visiting only when something big is happening. Vegas was built on repeat visitors, on people who came 2 or 3 times a year because the trip felt accessible, fun, affordable, and exciting every single time. But today, tourists are saving up for one big Vegas trip rather than making it a regular getaway. And locals, the heart of Vegas, are spending less time on the Strip than ever before. So the real question isn't whether Vegas still has world-class entertainment. It does. Everyone agrees on that. The real problem is this: entertainment attracts people. Value makes them stay. Affordability makes them return. Right now, Vegas only has the first part of that equation. People come for the Sphere, but leave stunned by how expensive everything else is. They come for a big sports weekend, but complain about parking, fees, and pricing. They come for concerts, but wonder why breakfast costs as much as a show ticket used to. Visitors aren't asking for the impossible. They're asking for fairness. They're asking for value. They're asking for the Vegas they used to know, the one that felt like a great deal, not a financial test. So the million-dollar question becomes this: will Las Vegas course correct, or will it double down, squeezing more and more until fewer and fewer people choose to come back? Because the truth is simple. Vegas hasn't lost its magic. It's just made the magic too expensive. And unless that changes, the tourism slide we're seeing today may only be the beginning.
Las Vegas has always reinvented itself. It's survived recessions, scandals, competition, and entire cultural shifts. But what we're seeing now is different because, for the first time, the problem isn't outside forces. It's the experience. It's the cost. It's the feeling that Vegas has stopped caring about the average visitor. Tourists are speaking up. Locals are speaking up. Even influencers and casino executives are acknowledging the frustration. And the message is loud and clear. Vegas doesn't need bigger events. It needs better value. People still want to come here. They still love the shows, the hotels, the energy, the excitement. They still want that feeling you can only get walking down the Strip at night. But they don't want to feel gouged. They don't want to feel unwelcome. They don't want to feel like every step, every breath, every bottle of water is just another fee waiting to happen. The good news? Vegas can fix this. In fact, some casinos are already bringing back cheap buffets, real comps, and the kind of hospitality that made this city legendary. The question now is whether the rest of Las Vegas will follow, or whether the Strip will keep drifting toward a version of itself that fewer and fewer people recognize. So what do you think? Is Vegas still worth the trip? What needs to change? And will the city listen before more visitors decide they're done? Let me know in the comments, because the future of Las Vegas might depend on what people say next.